Welcome to Caching Waves. This is an Elliott Wave update for HBAR. I'm going to get into the micro counts here, but quick recap. Out on the daily, this is my primary count. That is off the significant low. We had a wave A, B, C, impulse, correction, diagonal for our first three-wave correction as a W wave. We then had a expanded flat for our X wave. You can see we had a 3, 3, to the upside right between our zone, the 1.236 and a 382, which is the extension of the W wave. We made a higher high, and then we made a three-wave move to the downside to complete our Y wave and our larger X. So from here, I am looking for a three-wave move targeting excuse me, the one-to-one extension of W off of our larger X, which is up at 23.8 cents. Now, important to note that this can also be counted as a 1, 2, 1, 2, and we can explode for a larger third wave. That is an alternate count, and I would say low probability, just because usually if this is a 1, 2, our second 1, 2 ends up being smaller because it's at a lower degree time frame. So we have to push guidelines to make it a 1, 2, 1, 2. Doesn't mean it's invalid, it just means less probable than a corrective move. Now we're going to be focusing on this smaller area here off the low. You can see we came to the 618 retracement of the entire wave W, exactly where our most likely correction would be. That's what you have there on my green zone. All right, so let's go down to the smaller time frames. You can see we completed our ABC, triangle B, that was our correction, and a 5-wave move to the downside for our C, and we're coming out of our pitchfork, which is exactly what we want to see. All right, so I'll focus down on this area here. Now, this one's been a little more choppy than everything else. I have 2 counts on this. The important part to note is that we're getting a lot of 3-wave moves, as you can see, and a lot of overlap. So it's very difficult to get an impulse out of this unless you're really stretching guidelines. So when that tends to happen, I go to the most obvious if this is a low, and that is a diagonal. You can also see if this is a wave 1, we're already overlapping that, although not invalidating it as a smaller impulse. So we'll start with my primary, which doesn't have the ideal shape. We like to see more of a wedge than a channel, but still completely valid. And you know, I usually target the 618 and the 786, and that is the extension of wave 1 off of wave 2. Usually target this area, but alternatively, my second targets I usually target is the 1.236 and 382 for our third, and the 1.618 for our fifth. So if one's not working, I go to the other. So if you remember off the low, we could count this as a 5 or a WXY, which is be an ABC, X, ABC, or a 5-wave, and this is a triangle in a 5-wave pattern. So because both are valid and the price action following, I am more likely leaning that this is a diagonal. And this is some sort of WXY, 3-wave moves. Hard to lean into account, obviously, but a lot of overlap, a lot of 1-to-1s. Those are usually a dead giveaway when you're getting 1-to-1 extensions. Because, you know, if we get a third wave, we expect extensions, 1.618s. You can see we're getting a lot of 1-to-1s and 3-wave moves. So as of right now, this is my primary. Targeting a 5th wave right now if this 4th wave is in. If labeled accurately, this would be our target up at the 1.618. So that's at 8.51 cents to complete a wave 1 as a diagonal. And I also took extensions from beginning of wave 1 off of wave 3 off of this proposed 4th wave bottom. That is the 618 extension of 1 through 3 off of wave 4 at 8.55 cents. So you can see how close those targets are. Ideally, we get a touch of the trend line here I have marked, a little bit of overthrow. Spike in volume would be nice, but we'll see what we can get. We don't always get ideal guidelines. We have to work with what we get. So this is my primary, and it is quite bullish if we get this. One thing you have to keep in mind if you're watching this yourself and the video is not updated in time, I have seen this multiple times in very bullish scenarios. And that is, say we hit this target. We'll just assume these are the targets. Don't take them as concrete yet. But say we get this wave. I've seen many times. This happened with Dog with Hat when we had that really good trade in January. Sometimes what you get is a very shy retracement, just a 236, and very small in time. Literally, this can be all the correction you get, and you just explode to the upside. So just be aware of that. I know standard we look for our 50 to the 618, but nothing says we have to get that. In very bullish markets, I often see moves like this, and we just take off. Very short 1-2. And the way I would target that, if I wanted to play the breakout, this is just a little bit of education. You make your own decisions. But say we get a 236 and a clean 5-wave diagonal. The way I would play this is if we hit our target, hit the trend line, everything's ideal. We get this move and we start coming up. We get a nice clean 5 there, we go sideways. If you're unsure of this, what I would do is put on our B zone. And all that is we'll assume this is a 3-wave move, okay? We pull our fibs from this first level. Put on the 1.236, 1.382. So we know this can be potentially an A wave and an ABC, right? But it's not reacting the way we assume. We get a little micro 5-wave move here and we start trending sideways. But you also know we can turn into like a running flat and expanded flat. So you have all these options available. What I would do if I wanted to leverage up is take a market entry above the 1.618, which is the invalidation of this being a B wave. It's at 9.05 cents. So I'd go a little bit above, maybe 9.1 cent, you know, a little bit above, and market enter, have a trigger order ready, and my stop can go either at this micro 1-2 if we get something like that, or at the beginning of this if it's a little more confusing to look at. So that would be my leverage up entry above that 1.618, because I've seen this multiple times. I'm sure you have too. It's where you're very confused and you're like, why is it doing this? And it absolutely explodes. I'm not saying it's going to do that. I'm just saying it's an option. I've seen it, and if it does that, it's very difficult to get a good risk reward on a trade if that's happening, because you're off in a third, right? Good luck catching it. So that's what I would be looking for in this zone. Now, my alternate is we just have a wave 1 in a diagonal. That's my alternate. That's if we actually come here, drift sideways, make another move to the downside. I'd be more likely to call this a WXY for a 1-2. Depending where the pivot is, that's where I would go for the 618, 786 for our third, fourth, fifth. So just a different area that we are in the diagonal. So pay attention in this area. It looks good though. This looks corrective more than impulsive. We'll have to wait and see here. But those are my two options. This is my current primary, unless we come, you know, we drag out lower. This trend line doesn't really make sense anymore. In that case, I would switch to, okay, we're just making a larger diagonal. Both those options are possible. All right, guys, but looks good. And just remember, this is bullish. It's not bearish. This just makes a larger 1 and 2, depending how deep that comes. And we're starting our third wave. All right, guys, so that's it for HBAR. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.